Hey, it's James here from GoodGuitarist.com, and today I want to discuss some good practice habits. My goal for you is to feel motivated to practice, to practice regularly and to enjoy practicing and to look forward to it so that you can reach your goals on guitar and consistently move forward. If you'd like some organized instructional material, I have a beginner's course which gives you a clear step-by-step path and takes all the guesswork out of learning guitar. Just kind of tells you what to practice and when to do it, and it's going to make sure you get better. I'll put a link to that in the corner. Also, please take a moment right now to like this video, subscribe to the channel so that I can help you become a good guitarist. You want practicing to become a habit, something that you do no matter what, without even thinking about it. And once you develop that habit, it's going to be easy to keep on going, and it'll even feel a bit weird when you don't practice. You'll be compelled to do it. And the first step towards doing that is to pick a time in your day where practicing is going to happen no matter what. Just like when you wake up, you brush your teeth no matter what, I hope. Or, you take a lunch break no matter what. For me, I make sure it's at a time of day when I'm alert, when I have the energy to do it. So right after breakfast is a really good time to just put in like 10 or 15 minutes. In the evening after work, like once I've cooled off a little bit, that's also a really good time for me. But you pick what works best for you. I have a few students who have made practice schedules for themselves, and that was the turning point for them. That's where they went from somebody who is just getting like a little bit better to somebody who is making noticeable big improvement. Even if you're just doing it like 10 or 15 minutes each session, it's all going to add up. The next thing you're going to want to do is set up a practice space. And this is going to be somewhere where there's as few distractions as possible. So when you start working on guitar, nothing is going to interrupt it or draw your attention away, because nothing's worse than finally, mustering up the strength to sit down, you're ready to practice, you're totally feeling it. Then all of a sudden the phone rings or, something happens and it takes you out of it. So I like to have a dedicated practice space where I have my guitar tuner, my guitar, a metronome, my practice journal, and a pen. It's just like a little guitar zone in the corner of my office. And when I sit there, it feels like guitar time. It puts me in the right mindset. And now that you've set out the time and the space to practice, you have your phone on silent, you've eliminated all your distractions, you're ready to play. But before you do that, you're going to want to warm up. And a warm up serves two purposes. One, it warms up your fingers, and makes sure that you're ready to play. But it also gives you something really easy to start with, to sort of get the ball rolling. Like, let's say you have to practice something really intense, like this song that has all these hammer-ons and all this stuff in it, and you don't really know where to start. Maybe it's so overwhelming that it discourages you from practicing altogether. So what I like to do is commit to something a lot simpler. All I need to do is sit down and do the warm-ups that I do all the time, that I'm really used to doing. I can just kind of mindlessly do it. That's all I'm committing to. And that way I can kind of mentally ease my way in to the practice session. And, by the time you're done those warm-ups, you'll probably feel like practicing those more challenging things. I myself use this method to work out at the gym. I tell myself, all I got to do is drive to the gym and walk through the door. And then by the time I get there, I actually feel like working out. Another really overlooked practice tip, or like a good habit to develop, is to seek feedback and find people who can mentor you. And obviously, getting a teacher is like the instant way to do this. But another free way to do it is to find other guitar players and build up a little network. They could be your friends of a friend, and whether they're better or worse than you at guitar, or even if they play another instrument, it doesn't matter. As long as they want to get better, just like you do, and you can hold each other accountable. I know it's tough to be social sometimes. I'm like 50-50 outgoing, and then I'm like a recluse, but I remember when I was newer to guitar, approaching people, acquaintances who were better than me at guitar, and being like, hey, do you mind if I show you this thing that I can do on guitar and get your opinion? And doing that, it creates accountability, like I already mentioned, but it also creates a deadline, like, hey, I want to show Mike that I can do this, so I better practice up because we're hanging out this Saturday, and it doesn't have to be like, show me what you got. Like, you can also play with other people and just have fun. For me, after about 3 years of playing guitar, the gains started slowing down, and I didn't really have like a purpose or a reason to put in the number of hours required to see the same kind of growth that I had seen when I was just getting started, and that's when I started joining bands and meeting people who would teach me little things on the spot. I'd actually like to take a moment, if you'd let me, to thank someone personally, Gun Park. He passed away a few years ago from cancer, and he was the bass player in one of the first bands that I joined. And I'm going to be completely honest, like his little bits of advice that he'd given me during our jam sessions, like I learned literally as much from him as I did from getting a degree at music school, and that's probably one of the biggest factors for me hitting the next level. So including others in your journey is one of the best ways to create accountability, to give yourself deadlines, and to push forward. Now, once you're at that point, you're going to want to sort out your priorities. Is guitar a major priority for you? Like in my life, guitar is number 2, right after taking care of my family. I treat guitar as one of the most important things in my life, and there aren't too many things that I'm going to cancel in favor of guitar. It literally has to be something to do with my wife or my kids, or maybe like a really good friend that I haven't seen for a long time is in town. Otherwise, guitar is a hard number 1. And, you can decide where guitar fits in your life. I'm not saying that you have to be some like crazy guitar guy who only plays guitar all the time and doesn't care about anything else. What I am saying is that it's important to be aware of how valuable guitar is to you and to make the time to make it happen. Take my wife, for instance. She is a great songwriter. And when we first had kids, she wasn't able to take that time to practice songwriting and practice piano. And she'd basically, she got a little bit depressed, and nothing really fixed it except she would go out on the balcony, so that the kids wouldn't wake up, and she would write songs for like 30 minutes and she'd come back feeling amazing. It brought balance to her life. And I'm like that too when it comes to learning things on electric guitar. I need to do it or else I feel kind of off. So it's good to establish where guitar fits in your life and how important it is to you. And that'll help you decide to, practice and do it. And speaking of off, it's totally okay to have off days. It's totally fine to sit down, try to practice, and then realize that it's just not happening. And if that's the case, you can either completely relax and just take a day off of music and, just not worry about it. It's totally healthy. Or you can also find something that's not necessarily practicing, but still music related. Like my off days, those are the days where I plan what I want to practice. Maybe I listen to a whole bunch of music and I think like, oh yeah, I really want to learn those cool licks, and I'll just like write down the times. Like in this track at 3 minutes and 23 seconds, there's this super cool lick that I want to learn. And next time I go to practice, I'll be able to learn it, and it'll make my next practice session more efficient, and instead of just throwing away my practice session, I'm using that time to motivate myself and prepare so that the next time I go to practice, I'm going to have all this stuff that I'm super excited to do. My next good habit involves setting goals. Knowing what to practice and when takes out all the guesswork and makes it way easier to commit. When you just blindly work on something without knowing where it's heading, it can be tough to stay the course, especially when the going gets tough, and having a clear plan gives you that confidence and it lets you measure your progress and actually see it before your very eyes. I have a simple 5-step method that I go over in another video. It's called the STAIR method, and every letter of STAIR stands for something. S is set your goals. You figure out what you want to do. T is to tune up. That's obvious. Tune your guitar. A is activate your fingers. You do some warm-ups to kind of get your fingers going. I is to isolate the tricky spots. And, that's where you actually work on the stuff. You figure out how you're going to reach those goals and you isolate all the tricky spots and you work on it. And yeah, I elaborate on it in that video. I'm not going to go too far into it. But finally, R is to record your progress using a practice journal. And out of everything that we're discussing today, I feel like the practice journal is probably the most important. It'll keep you organized. You'll be able to look back through it and see how far you've come. And you can plan out how you're going to move forward. Learning to keep a practice journal not only taught me how to get better at guitar, I believe it's one of the reasons I've grown into a successful teacher of guitar. Finally, I have an optional habit that works really well for some people and not at all for other people. setting deadlines for yourself. Whether that works for you is up to the individual. Some people work better under pressure and some people don't. I know with students, sometimes we'll have recitals and that gives them something to do, and if you have a recital coming up, you'll need to practice or else you're going to embarrass yourself in front of everybody. That's like what's going on in the back of your mind. And it's a great motivator for some people, and it doesn't even have to be a recital. There's open mic nights, jam sessions, gigs. You just have to have something that you got to go to. It kind of lights a fire under your butt and makes you work a little bit harder, depending on the person. And you don't even have to have anything coming up. You can kind of just tell yourself like, hey, this has to be done by such and such a date or else. But as somebody like me, I actually do have deadlines. Like I have to film these lessons on these days. I have to play this in this band, etc. It's a great tool. It's probably the thing that gets me going. But, like I said, some people, it totally just doesn't work for them. Ultimately, if you want to get better, all you have to do is practice. There's no question about it. And like anything, if you take the time to do it right, it's going to turn out way better. And that's where having a teacher comes in, or, taking a course like my beginner's course. It's going to give you the foundations and guide you through everything, every step of the way, and make sure that all the time you spend practicing is actually going somewhere, somewhere proven that is going to work, that we have confidence that the work is doing something for you, And if you enjoyed this lesson, please take a moment to like and subscribe to the channel so you can get the latest guitar lessons from me. And if you have any practice tips that I didn't mention here, let me know, just let me know in the comments down below. Either way, have a fun time practicing and I'll see you soon.